All right, so we're going to talk about absolute value inequalities, and this is kind of the gist of what I'm talking about. And so this inequality, it's not an equation, it's an inequality, says the absolute value, that's what these up and down bars are, of some number minus 2 has to be less than or equal to 1. And we're going to talk about what that looks like on the number line and what it really means. So first, let's really dig into what does absolute value mean. The definition of absolute value is that absolute value is the absolute value of a number is that number's distance from 0. So for example, the absolute value of 3 is 3 because 3 is 1 to 3 units from 0. Okay, cool. The absolute value of negative 2, however, is 2 because negative 2 is 1, 2 units from 0. Even though it's in the negative direction, it's still 2 full units because I'd have to walk 2 full steps to get back up to 0. So what happens when we have an inequality kind of like this? We've got a whole bunch of stuff happening inside here. We've got x minus 2, so we've got some random number minus 2. Well, just like parentheses, you treat absolute value kind of like parentheses. So if you had something like, say, the absolute value of 5 minus 7, well, you would treat this just like parentheses, and 5 minus 7, this right here, is just negative 2. So this is the same as the absolute value of negative 2, which we have already decided is 2. But I want to point out an important idea here, which is that subtraction, which we normally think of as like 5 things take away 7 things, this also actually talks about distance, because really what I'm looking at is what is the distance between the numbers 5 and 7? Well, here we have our number line, and we've got the number 5 and we've got the number 7, and you'll notice that there are simply 1, 2 units between them. Now normally when you subtract like this, right, if you had 5 minus 7, you do get a negative 2, and that is because you're going in a specific direction. If you had 7 minus 5, your answer would simply be 2 because there's still 2 units here, but it's not necessarily negative. But when we're dealing with absolute value, the really important word here is distance. We're really talking about the distance between numbers. That's why you always end up getting a positive result even when the input is negative, because you can't really have a negative distance. Okay, so back up to our lovely, like, x minus 2. This is saying the distance, just like this was the distance between 5 and 7 when I had the absolute value there. This is saying the distance between some number and 2 is less than or equal to 1. So let's think about what that would look like on a number line. Okay, so and I've covered up a little bit here, but let's start with this. This right here basically says the distance between some number, this is my like x, and 2, right? And so here's 2, and we're going to talk about the distance between 4 and 2, or 0 and 2, or negative 1 and 2. Now obviously this could be anything. I could plug anything in because I haven't put a constraint on it. What we've added here though, in the original thing, was that the distance between some number and 2 is less than or equal to 1 unit. So if this is 2, and I want to be less than or equal to 1 unit away, then I could go here. This is less than 1 unit away from 2. I could go over here. This is less than 1 unit of 2. As soon as I get past 3, though, this is more than 1 unit away. So this would not count. So really what we've got, because it's got that line underneath it, we're going to have closed circles here. And everything in between 1 and 3 would work for us. That's really what we've got. And so what this thing says is the distance from some number and 2 is less than or equal to 1 unit away. Now, what happens if we switch this thing around? kind of like this. And in fact, I also took away the or equal to here. So this now just says the distance between some number and 2 is more than 1 unit. So now this time, if you look at 2, we need to be more than 1 unit away in order for this to be true. So if I went up to 4, 4 minus 2, well, that is 2 units away, so that's more than 1. And anything down here. So in this case, we're going to have open circles because we're not including 3 or 1. Because if I went exactly to 3, 3 is not more than 1 unit away from 2. It's exactly 1 unit away from 2. But this time, I now get to color everything on the outside here. Let me know what questions you have. Happy to help out. Hope this is useful.